let's talk about the Witr prayer. It's such a significant prayer for Muslims, but wow, it often comes with a ton of questions. So today, we're going to clear things up, looking at it specifically from the Hanafi perspective. You've probably wondered about these things, right? Like, is it something I absolutely have to do? How many units is it again? Should I be praying it by myself? These are the big questions, and we're going to unravel each one. By the end, you'll have a super clear picture. Let's dive in. All right, first things first, let's tackle the biggest question of them all. What's the actual ruling on Witr? Is it a must-do, or is it more of a highly recommended practice? This is really the heart of the discussion, so let's make sure we've got our terms down. Okay, so on one hand, we have the term wajib. Think of this as obligatory. It's a really big deal. It's not quite on the same level as the 5 compulsory daily prayers. That level is called fard, but it's right below it. And here's the key. If you miss a wajib prayer, you absolutely have to make it up. And on the other side of the debate, you've got sunnah. This means it's a recommended practice of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Doing it brings a ton of reward, for sure, but it isn't considered binding. So you get immense spiritual benefits, but there's no penalty for missing it. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. This disagreement isn't between different schools of thought. Nope. This is a debate within the Hanafi school. You've got the founder, Imam Abu Hanifa, who said Witr is wajib, obligatory. But then his 2 most famous students, Abu Yusuf and Muhammad, they actually argued it was a highly emphasized sunnah. So what was Imam Abu Hanifa's reasoning? Well, he was looking at prophetic statements just like this one. See that word added? His logic was pretty straightforward. If Allah adds a prayer for us, that sounds like a command, right? It feels mandatory. But because the evidence wasn't as crystal clear as for the 5 daily prayers, he placed it in that wajib category, just a notch below fard. But his students, they were looking at other narrations. And this one seems to draw a very clear line. It basically says that Witr was prescribed for the Prophet himself, but for everyone else, it is a sunnah for you. For them, this was the key piece of evidence. It clearly defined it as recommended, not obligatory. So, where does all this leave us? Well, here's the bottom line. Regardless of this scholarly debate, the practical result is that Witr is treated with incredible importance. It's seen as the absolute highest of all the sunnah prayers, and that's why it's treated like an obligatory prayer in some ways. You have to do it standing if you're able, and you absolutely must make it up if you miss it. Okay, so we've got the why and the legal status down. Now let's get into the practical stuff, the how and the when. How do you actually get this prayer right? First up, timing. The window for Witr opens right after you've finished the Isha prayer, and it stays open all night long right up until dawn. Now, the absolute best, most virtuous time to pray it is in the last third of the night. But, that's if you're confident you're actually going to wake up for it. And how many units, or rak'ahs, are we talking about? In the Hanafi school, Witr is 3 rak'ahs. And here's the crucial detail about its structure. You pray all 3 together in one continuous set, kind of like the Makhil prayer. You don't say the final salam until you're at the very end of that 3rd unit. So what do you recite? Well, after Al-Fatiha in each rak'ah, you can of course recite any part of the Quran you know well, but if you want to follow the recommended practice from the Prophet's example, it's Surah Al-A'la in the 1st, Surah Al-Kafirun in the 2nd, and Surah Al-Ikhlas in the 3rd. All right, now we're getting to a really unique part of the Witr prayer, something that truly makes it stand out. It's called the Qunut, a special supplication that's a defining feature of the prayer. So here's how it works. Picture this. You're in the final 3rd rak'ah. You've just finished your Quran recitation. Now, before you bow, you say Allahu Akbar, raise your hands, and then you begin to recite the Qunut supplication while standing. So what do you actually say during the Qunut? Well, there are a couple of well-known, longer supplications that are taught. But, and this is what's so great, there's built-in flexibility. If you don't know those yet, you can say simpler phrases or even just recite a Quranic verse that serves as a prayer. It's designed to be accessible to absolutely everyone. Okay, let's talk about a classic what-if moment that happens to the best of us. You're in the flow of the prayer, you forget the Qunut entirely, and you find yourself already in the bowing position. You're thinking, oh no, what do I do now? The established view is simple and super practical. You don't go back up. Just continue on with your prayer. The sequence is the most important thing to maintain. At the very end, you'll just make the prostration of forgetfulness to cover the mistake. For 11 months of the year, Witr is a personal, solo prayer. But then, everything changes during one special month. Let's talk about how Witr is performed in Ramadan. The rule is really clear. Witr's prayed alone. The one and only exception to this rule is during the month of Ramadan. That's when it transforms into a communal prayer, performed in a group, usually right after the Tarawih prayers at the mosque. And praying in a group brings up another one of those fascinating scholarly discussions. In a group, how is the Qunut recited? Well, according to Abu Yusuf, the leader and the followers all recite it silently to themselves. But according to Muhammad, the leader recites it out loud while everyone behind just listens and says Amin. And the key thing to know is that both of these are considered valid, and you'll see both being practiced. Okay, so we've gone through the ruling, the method, and the special cases. So what does it all mean? How does it fit together? Well, there's this powerful analogy that just perfectly captures the unique place of the Witr prayer. This is really the key. Think of Witr as a bridge. On one side of the bridge, you have the 5 obligatory prayers, the pillars of your day. On the other side, you have all that beautiful voluntary night worship. Witr is the prayer that connects them. It's not quite a pillar itself, but it's way more than just a regular voluntary prayer. It connects our required duties with our voluntary worship, sealing our day in the most perfect way. So it's clear that Witr is so much more than just a ritual. It's this profound act of worship with a very special status. And that really leaves us with a personal question. Knowing its unique importance, how will you make this beautiful prayer a consistent and meaningful part of your night?